Greetings and welcome to episode 137 of the Words About Gamescast, the weekly video game podcast for Words About Games. I'm your host, Amy Alexander. I'm joined this week by Keith Robinson.
No, you're joined by Darth Keith Robinson. Because I have a cold.
But when you... hang on. But I thought, he's not Darth Anakin Skywalker, right? Like, you gotta have a badass Darth name if you're gonna go down that route.
That sounds like too much effort.
So, not Darth. Didn't join the dark side.
Well, I've been GM for a while.
This is true.
More than half my life.
You're always on the dark side. This explains so much. I feel like my entire life suddenly makes sense. I also knocked over Cuphead last week and forgot to fix it. For last week's podcast.
Yeah.
Still knocked over. I just looked at my video box and it's like, yep, Cuphead still down. Showing his butt to the viewers of this podcast.
Yeah.
And just call that presenting.
Okay, moving swiftly on.
Should we just jump in?
Yeah.
I feel like I can't move too much because my chair's squeaking a lot, but let's jump into the very first news story, which is there is concern growing about Activision's influence at Blizzard. This is a report written by Brendan Sinclair over at GamesIndustry.biz, who writes, Activision and Blizzard joined forces in 2007. But the two publishers have largely operated as separate entities. However, according to Kotaku report, a handful of employees who recently left Blizzard said Activision Blizzard is beginning to exert greater influence on the creators behind games like World of Warcraft and Overwatch. The concerns stem in part from earlier this year when Activision Blizzard's Senior VP of Investor Relations, Amrita Ahuja, took on the role of CFO at Blizzard. In a company-wide meeting shortly after Ahuja's appointment, she told employees that Blizzard was looking to save money this year. This was a very different message from the... Yep, you go.
No, I'm still here.
Yeah. You were an avatar for a second there. That really threw me off. This was a very different message than the employees were used to hearing, according to some former Blizzard workers. You are on the dark side. You did that on purpose. I'm on.
Yeah, I did do that deliberately on purpose, but yes.
You would have thought Blizzard was going under and we had no money, one former Blizzard employee told Kotaku. The way every little thing was being scrutinized from a spend perspective, that's obviously not the case, but this was the very first time I ever heard, we need to show growth. That was just so incredibly disheartening for me. That employee said they left the company partly due to concerns over Activision's influence on Blizzard operations. Activision Blizzard has had some challenges of late. While Call of Duty Black Ops 4 has done well, we'll get to that in a moment, the Destiny franchise has been underperforming and its share price has taken several hits. As for the Blizzard side of business, after scoring a hit with Overwatch in 2016, the pipeline of new products has been slim, and monthly active users, a key engagement metric for Activision Blizzard, have either stagnated or declined for the last 4 quarters. As one former Blizzard staffer put it, quote, we are being told to spend less at every corner because we have no new IP. Because Overwatch set this bar of how much we could earn in a single year, there's a ton of pressure from Activision to get shit moving. They want something to show shareholders, end quote. The situation could be further complicated by last month's departure of Blizzard co-founder and CEO Mike Morhaime. That said, Morhaime was succeeded by Blizzard veteran J. Allen Brack at the same time, 2 developers with deep Blizzard roots were added to the executive leadership team. So that was the GamesIndustry.biz write-up of a much larger, more expansive, more wide-ranging Kotaku article. Was about that, but also a lot about Diablo in the aftermath of Diablo Immortal. And so there's a lot of stuff about Diablo 4, which was written by Jason Schreier. You should go over to Kotaku and read it. A lot of the Blizzard stuff, the Diablo stuff, wasn't really pertinent to what we normally talk about, and I think what we want to talk about stemming from this. So what are your thoughts on that one? Darth Robinson.
It's kind of, par for the course, really. I mean, no, Blizzard hasn't had a big successful game come out this year. Yeah, Activision's not doing great. There could be a few different reasons why Blizzard just want to keep the budget down. Maybe I don't know, they have a secret plan to buy themselves away from Activision. Maybe they just want to make sure that they don't come into any maybe that's keep an eye on the budget in case this whole loot box thing goes belly up, and they have to work on a shoestring until their next proper game release comes out.
Shoestring.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm not saying proper shoestring, but I'm so they don't have to lay people off. They don't have to cancel projects or anything in case they get retroactive legal action.
I know, right? Activision Blizzard only made $4 billion last year.
Yes, but many of that has gone to stockholders and CEOs.
True.
So,
no, that's very true. I like there's a lot of lines in here that vibe with me. The first one is
I thought I'd play devil's advocate. So
I mean, it annoys me when you do that because I know sometimes when you do it, some of the things you're saying you don't actually believe, and it annoys the fuck out of me.
What balance on a podcast? What witchery?
Not balance, but people might get the wrong idea of what your actual opinion is.
Yeah, I mean, I would personally I would love it if Activision wasn't part of Blizzard, if they weren't two units. But that's
that would be ideal, right? But yeah, you can thank Vivendi for that one. But yeah, no, there was a few bits in here. I want to talk about just pull out some sentences. The first one being that as for the Blizzard side of the business, after scoring a hit with Activision in 2016, the pipeline, new products, blah blah blah, and everything's been stagnating. Yeah. See, I was thinking about this. Well, on and off about all this loot box stuff, right? And it's these companies are obviously big, huge, multinational corporations with shareholders, like you just mentioned, shareholders, and all they care about is every quarter or every fiscal year that they made more money than the previous quarter and or fiscal year. And the way they did that in the last sort of year to 2 years is loot boxes. It's unlike DLC or unlike directly buying skins, which is a thing we talked about as far as Overwatch goes.
Yeah.
Those initiatives have an upper limit of how much money you could possibly make off them.
Yeah.
Whereas loot boxes have an unlimited income potential.
Yeah.
But eventually, they're just going to tap out, and then it's well, okay, how do we make more money than $1 billion? How do we do that? So it is quite fascinating to me that Overwatch is obviously brought up because it was their last major game release, and it's well, how do you top how much money you made from Overwatch with the next major game release?
I mean, games as a service is that kind of thing. This whole thing with loot boxes. I just had some memory of the bubbles bursting when it came to the .com boom and stuff like that. And it's eventually these bubbles do burst.
Every single time.
Part of me is hoping that this whole Activision Blizzard thing, where they're keeping an eye on their money values in case they're preparing for a scenario where the bubble will burst on this whole loot box thing. More countries, their primary markets perhaps, stop them using this monetization system, and they're looking forward because it would be nice. I mean, we don't normally discuss when companies look forward and avoid catastrophe. What normally happens is we're talking about companies who have not avoided catastrophe.
Normally, AAA publishers have a tendency to run headfirst into catastrophes at breakneck speeds. Same thing, right? I've got a whole award dedicated to this for the end of year awards, but
right.
To that specific thing that you were talking about, and I am waffling because I was gonna say a response to that, but I forgot because I made my one-liner about running headfirst into catastrophes, and I'm trying to see if I can get it back by just waffling.
Activating waffle mode.
Activate waffle mode.
Not coming back, is it?
No, it's not. But you said something about the bubble burst. And it's
hesitation. I claim the podcast.
Oh no, I've lost.
Yeah.
Activating guest mode.
Yeah.
No, we did that once before. I'm never doing that again. You can take this podcast from my cold dead hands. All right, so let's the loot box bubble will probably burst at some point, and then it's up to them to find the next revenue stream, which is totally not gambling. Let's talk about the culture of Blizzard. We're both Blizzard fans, right? In terms of the games that they put out.
Yeah.
Overwatch is a big one for me. Warcraft is a big one for yourself. StarCraft exists, and is a thing that people enjoy.
Yeah.
Hearthstone is a card game, but anyway, are you worried that if Activision starts exerting more and more control over Blizzard, bearing in mind Blizzard is a developer that, I mean, they're famous for it'll be done when it's done, right?
Yeah.
We wait years and years and years between different iterations of games, like the wait between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. Yeah. They'll wait for them to finally announce the Warcraft 3 remaster we've all known was coming for a very long time. Whereas Activision as a publisher, they release a new Call of Duty every year without fail. Destiny 2, I mean, has been out. It took 3 years between sequels, and we're already hearing about the next one. They haven't had they released Spyro this year, which was the year after they released Crash, and I'm sure they're going to release another remaster next year. And one of the reasons why I think Blizzard works, and why their games are such top quality is, one, they support their games.
Yeah.
For a long time, like Overwatch has still got the same amount of support it has at launch now. In terms of new maps, mods, characters, not necessarily mods, but whereas Call of Duty, they just drop it and move on to the next one. You get about 6 to 8 months of support with Call of Duty World War II, which was last year's, and then Black Ops. It's all about Black Ops. Promote Black Ops, beta for Black Ops. Black Ops is out, and then by about March next year, it'll all be all about whatever the next one is. Do you think there's a danger of Activision exerting too much control and Blizzard becoming, not necessarily that overnight, but...
Yeah, I can't see them doing that yearly model with any of the current IPs of Blizzard, because it's just not that sort of thing you would get with their tactical games and strategies. They're not going to do that with WoW.
World of Warcraft 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.
Yeah, with less content. But the games that Blizzard's already got out are fairly well monetized as it is.
Incredibly well monetized.
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing things, and I'm not sure how much hyperbole it is, but the decline in Hearthstone participation.
I mean, it's natural for an online game that goes on for a while to stagnate and then eventually lose monthly users. We've seen it with World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft was an absolute juggernaut that every single person in the world played at one point. That's a literal fact. You can quote me on that. But obviously they stopped releasing subscriber numbers many years ago because they just kept going down and down and down, and that's just natural. Over a period of time. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the biggest one, but it's definitely nowhere near. Oh yeah, WoW is still the biggest MMO out there. I'm almost certain of it, sure, but it's nowhere near what it was at its peak in terms of subscriber numbers, and people are playing it. But that's just normal. They make live service games for the most part, even their offline games like Diablo 3 and StarCraft. Although StarCraft has a multiplayer element, it's not a live service game. They support those games for decades sometimes, but less people will play them because eventually you move on. It's the intrinsic thing that makes every single publisher chasing these live service games kind of stupid, because there's only space in people's lives for a certain amount of them. Right now, the games that I'm playing, I would categorize as Black Ops 4 and Battlefield, and I've dropped games. PUBG, I've dropped. Overwatch, I haven't played for a while because there's only so much time.
You haven't played as Ash, have you?
No, I haven't seen Ash. There's only so much time that people can play games, so eventually you start dropping them. It's natural. The way you get that back is by releasing new content updates, by releasing sequels, and I'm wondering if maybe they're going to start pushing them to release content faster.
Yeah.
do you think that would have? I mean, eventually that's got to have a negative impact on Blizzard's games.
That would mess up the way they do Hearthstone at the moment, and probably kill the format. When it comes to WoW, I can't really say how that would affect things. I'm fairly sure they release like different like new quest lines and updates and stuff throughout the year between the expansions, which are like 2-3 years.
I want to say 2 every 2 years. They release a new expansion. That might be about right.
Yeah, but no. And as for like that, I mean, they're always producing new heroes for Heroes of the Storm and stuff, but again, they're smaller markets, and I don't really see increasing like the ramp of like content and stuff as being really helpful.
Releasing content faster. I mean, it's a weird one. Blizzard are a very different type of developer than any other AAA developer out there, in terms of the way they make content and essentially the way they make money, because a lot of AAA publishers rely on new games coming out all the time to make a shit ton of money, right?
Yeah.
Blizzard don't. Like, in fact, they're practically the exception that proves the rule. Like, it's very rare that we get a new Blizzard game.
Not as rare as, Final Fantasy, but...
I mean, well... between Final Fantasy 13 and Final Fantasy 15, because we don't count the MMO, the entire Assassin's Creed franchise happened.
Yeah. How good was the yearly development cycle for that, genre?
It's getting better, although it's not really a yearly development cycle. Origins and Odyssey were a lot better than, I don't know, Revelations and 3, which was probably the low point of or Unity, which was definitely the low point of the Assassin's Creed's yearly development cycle.
Unity, the one set in France?
Unity was the one set in France, where the characters had no faces. Unity was the one that was almost as broken as Fallout 76.
And couldn't have female characters. Yeah.
Yes, Unity was the one that didn't have female characters because they couldn't afford to do all the animations for it. So all the characters, because that was the one that had cooperative multiplayer, and all the characters were just copies of each other. Because a studio as big as Ubisoft couldn't solve the problem of having different avatars in multiplayer like any other game developer in the history of multiplayer games. Makes you wonder what Overwatch's animation budget's like. They've got like 29 different characters.
More. 29/30 because they've got Bob.
Oh yeah, Bob.
No, 31 because you have both Diva's mecha suit and Diva.
Truth. But yeah, I thought it was a really interesting piece, especially as we just talked about the Diablo flashback. Nope, the Diablo backlash. A few weeks ago. I'm mixing my words up. This is going to be one of those shows. Shall we move on to the next news story? Hope I don't mix any words up here. Okay. Oh no. Paradox Interactive integrates White Wolf, cuts disrespectful passages from Vampire the Masquerade. This one comes from Jay Costello over at Rock Paper Shotgun, who writes, Paradox Interactive have announced that they're fully integrating tabletop RPG developers White Wolf after they used the suffering of Chechny's LGBTQ plus population as set dressing in a crude and disrespectful way in Vampire the Masquerade. White Wolf will receive a new leadership and continue to develop the guiding principles for its vision of the world of darkness, but will no longer develop and publish these products internally. Paradox Interactive's statement comes from its VP of Business Development, Shams Jorjani, who's currently also acting as the interim manager at White Wolf. He states that the changes are a part of a process that has been ongoing since September, and have always been the intended goal for White Wolf as a company, but the immediacy of their effect is clearly down to paragraphs included in the upcoming V5 Camarilla handbook that reference the persecution of LGBTQ plus people in the Russian Republic of Chechnya. Reports including graphic testimonies say that Chechnya... This is not in the game. This is not in the book. This is the actual real life.
Yeah.
Reports, including graphic testimonies, say that Chechnya has arrested and tortured hundreds of LGBTQ plus people and killed at least 3. Chechen officials, on the other hand, claim that these international media reports are false because you cannot arrest or repress people who just don't exist in the Republic.
Please, let's not get into that.
The Camarilla Handbook, which has now been delayed by approximately 3 weeks so that these sections can be edited out, explained that Chechnya is run by vampires and described the atrocities as a clever media manipulation. It reads, I think I'm going to vomit. While homosexuals are indeed held in detention facilities for days and humiliated, starved, tortured, and eventually fed upon and killed, this is not the point. The point is to distract from the truth of what Chechnya has become. In other words, the real-world imprisonment, torture, and murder of LGBTQ plus people is presented as secondary to the political goals of fictional monsters, simultaneously downplaying the human tragedy and erasing much of its context. Chechen officials are also objected to the betrayal. According to Crime Russia, a spokesperson for the head of the Republic, Ramzan Kadyrov, said, "This is a continuation of the campaign to slander Russia and Chechnya. I'm sure that the same organization that claimed about the persecution of sexual minorities stands behind it." Not sure that made sense. White Wolf apologized for these sections of the book on Facebook, admitting that they can be viewed as crude and insensitive. Giorgiani's post goes much further, saying, quote, "The world of darkness has always been about horror, and horror is about exploring the darkest parts of our society, our culture, and ourselves. Horror should not be afraid to explore difficult or sensitive topics, but it should never do so without understanding who those topics are about and what it means to them. Real evil does exist in the world, and we can't ever excuse its real perpetrators or cheapen the suffering of its real victims. In the Chechnya chapter of the V5 Camarilla book, we lost sight of this. The result was a chapter that dealt with a real-world ongoing tragedy in a crude and disrespectful way. We should have identified this either during the creative process or in editing. This did not happen, and for this, we apologize." End quote. So that all happened.
Yeah. So, I mean, part of me wants to go with the light joke of you would have thought that vampires would be entirely okay with homosexuals. But the other part of me is just like, yes, people make light of the Holocaust and stuff with like vampire movies, and Hollywood still gets it all the time and stuff. I mean, we've got a film called Overlord, which came out with about monsters and genocide with Nazis and stuff. But the Chechen stuff is like now, most of the people who suffer through that, like I saw 90% of the people who are suffering through that, it's still happening to them. They haven't died. It's not a couple of generations ago.
And also, it is different from. I know that there'll be obviously disrespectful movies. Of course there are, but like if you look at like a World War II movie, it's never hand waving away the badness, the awfulness of World War II.
Yeah,
like it is always it is mostly I don't want to say always because I'm sure there's movies out there, but it is mostly handled in a at least a respectful manner that says actually these things really did happen and they're awful. Whereas in the vampire book, it was but yeah, that this thing's all happening, but that's not that's not the real point of it. The point is like we can totally manipulate the media. # fake news, lol. And that fucking sucks, man. Like, I remember when we did the thing about Paradox Interactive buying White Wolf. All I wanted was a Vampire the Masquerade Bloodline sequel. Like, and then they announced Werewolf, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, it's a World of Darkness game. I can get behind it. And then since then. We've had 2 text adventures, which were
you got 2 bad text adventure
horrific, horrifically, terribly written. There was the stuff before the new Vampire the Masquerade sourcebook came out with all the with all the fascist and neo-Nazi stuff in it that they had to apologize for and remove. And then this happened. Now, it's been a very long time since I've read the Vampire the Masquerade sourcebook, right? We played it once a long time ago. And I did really enjoy reading the book. But if I'm not mistaken, and I can't speak for the rest of the World of Darkness because I never read any of the sourcebooks, but they never actually reference real world things in that book, did they?
I'm trying to think if it was version 1 or 2 that we read. I don't have the book. I have read Werewolf, like the werewolf stuff, because I was in a werewolf campaign. I have read the Vampire Masquerade stuff, and I've read one of the Vampire Masquerade versions was set like in Rome, which is kind of real and kind of not, because Rome's so like far back. It's like we kind of know what happened, but we kind of don't.
Yeah.
Because we don't actually know what like Latin sounds like. But yeah, it's like there was stuff like it's like the main books didn't really matter to anything in the world. You could do whatever, and then they'll produce like these clan guides and stuff. Like there was a source book for Werewolf set in Britain.
Yeah.
It explained how the different factions worked in Britain and stuff.
Yeah, because it was set in like modern times. Or...
Yeah, it referenced stuff like the Dangerous Dogs Act in Britain, as well as fox hunting and stuff.
Which makes sense, because that's the lane, right? It's werewolf.
Yeah. I think it also mentioned our gun control system, but you know.
But I mean, like it struck me really, really bad, really a lot in the text adventures that they released, where the vampire one was full of shit talking about Donald Trump, and the mage one, I think it was this just awfully horribly written thing about the immigration crisis in Europe.
Yeah. I think these were a couple of years ago and stuff. Like things have gotten worse since then.
I mean, things have gotten way worse since then.
But yeah, I do remember the discussions about that and how poorly written and how poorly explained stuff is. Was it unreliable narrator was like the way to explain the mage one, because it relied on stuff they couldn't have known.
The specifics escaped me.
Yeah.
Cleansed my brain of it.
Yeah. To get one ending, you had to know stuff that wasn't ever explained in the game. I believe was one of your
probably
remarks.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. There's a whole review I've written. I could probably go back and read it.
Yeah.
I remember it was very black and white, and that didn't really jive with the World of Darkness that I knew.
Yeah. I mean, vampires are supposed to go. I mean, the darker side of the grey, the Belcar side of the gene pool.
Yeah. Like you're on a scale of evil. You're not good in any way.
Yeah. I mean, it's like people like White Wolf have got they're looking for a certain edginess when they're like hiring writers and stuff, and sometimes when you're writing edgy material, you step over the line. Because World of Darkness is meant to be like sort of like the edgier sort of like from the edgier role-playing material stuff, because you get to play vampires, you get to play like the monsters or the witches and stuff. I mean, you can play other stuff. You can play like different ways. You can play the angel from Buffy, or you can play like the people from Anne Rice, which is probably what was the original one was based on.
Yeah, I think so. Not so much Angel.
Yeah, so if you're writing those sort of source books and materials and stuff, I can kind of see why you're going for edgy material, but I do think they dropped the ball going for something which is happening now, really.
It's like make like a metaphor of it, or an allegory of it, allegory, or however you pronounce it. I can never remember. Like make it of that, but then don't just go, look, we've done this thing. The actual suffering part doesn't matter. It's all about this thing, which is incredibly disrespectful.
Yeah.
So Paradox has basically said, nope, you're not an independent company anymore, which apparently was the plan anyway.
Yeah. Basically, it's just like a leash.
Yeah, it's like, nope.
Yeah.
You got burned on this neo-Nazi stuff. That's it. It's
like,
over.
We bought you, and we had kind of expectations, and yeah, this isn't working, so certain privileges must be revoked.
I mean, this is the stuff that needs to keep people remembering that the World of Darkness license exists. And so it obviously serves the tabletop RPG fan base, but also needs to keep people remembering that this thing exists while they make it on video games, which obviously take a lot longer to make.
Yeah.
This isn't how you want people to remember that this license exists.
No.
Absolutely, 100% not. But let's move on, Keith.
Yeah.
Almost the entirety of the rest of this podcast is dedicated to your two favorite topics: What 3 favorite topics? Sales figures, leaks, and trademarks.
I already told you I was ill.
So we'll start.
Peace out, dudes.
I mean, blame
Peace out.
NPD, Reset Error, and Reddit. So the NPD October 2018 results have been released. He's done it again.
I'm still here.
I know. Did your pants fall down? Is that why you've had to turn your...
No, but as I said, I was ill and I didn't want to be on camera blowing my nose.
I'm just gonna hold the entire podcast and point it out. Anyway, NPD October 2018 results have come out. So I've trolled the threads and the NPD stuff, and I've again put together.
Trolled NPD.
Trolled it. I
Not
trolled
what you
it
said.
like a fisherman. I almost said like a fishmonger, like a fisherman, fisherwoman, fisher person, fish catcher expert specialist. So
You trolled it like Aquaman.
Well, what's his Amber Heard? His wife Mira, not Mira. So the October chart of NPD. So we speculated the last time NPD came out. We were very interested to see who would win in the battle between Call of Duty Black Ops 4 and Red Dead Redemption 2. Obviously, Black Ops 4 had a major head start. It came out on October 12th as opposed to Red Dead Redemption coming out on October 26th. So it's probably no surprise, given that, to see that Call of Duty Black Ops 4 was the best-selling game of October, with Red Dead Redemption 2 being the second best-selling game of October. The caveat to that is PC digital sales aren't included in Black Ops' sale tallies. So it will be interesting to see if Red Dead overtakes Call of Duty next month. We'll find out. In third place, we had Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is having a very strong launch month as well. It was counted last time because of release dates are meaningless, and the deluxe edition actually released 5 days earlier than the release date, which is the second release date. Yeah, the modern day of release dates, those are just numbers on a page, man.
Release dates are a nebulous concept.
Indeed. In fourth place, we had NBA 2K19. Fifth place, we had Super Mario Party coming in strong, which I like. The keyboard has appeared on my iPad as if I'm holding it in landscape mode. I can only read half of the text.
So in this podcast, you notice we're going on many tangents and having many technical issues.
There we go.
Not only are we ill, our computers are ill.
Everything's ill. In sixth place, we had Soul Calibur 6, which was respectable. In seventh, we had FIFA 19. Marvel's Spider-Man is still selling strong in eighth. And then NFL 19 and WWE 2K19. COD 1. Surprised?
Well,
Yeah?
I mean, at the end of the year, I'm kind of expecting, it to be kind of more evening out.
I mean, it's probably quite close, maybe.
Lifetime sales, I will expect.
Oh, lifetime
Red Dead.
sales. Red Dead's going to just destroy it.
Eclipse it, yeah. But I was expecting it to be a bit closer.
It's more for the year-to-date sales by December 31st that I'd be more interested to see. Because obviously, Red Dead Redemption 2 has got a massive online mod coming out and will be supported for years to come. Whereas, as we just discussed in the first news story of the podcast, COD's going to be dropped in 12 months.
Yeah.
Which makes Blackout an interesting thing, but we'll find out about that next year, I'm sure. We also got the all platforms year-to-date. So this is the sales from January 1st to October 31st. Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is the best-selling game of the year.
Surprise, surprise.
And Red Dead Redemption 2 is right behind it.
Indeed.
Far Cry 5, which had been the best-selling game year-to-date since it came out, is now in third place. It was a good run. You had a good run, Far Cry. Marvel Spider-Man is in fourth. NBA 2K19 follows it in fifth. God of War was sixth. Monster Hunter World is seventh, which is very respectable. NFL 19 is 8th, Grand Theft Auto 5 is 9th, and Call of Duty World War 2 is in 10th. Damn. Red Dead Redemption 2 is the second best-selling game of the year, with 9 days of reported sales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't say I'm surprised.
It sold incredibly well. Call of Duty Black Ops obviously sold more. Since the 12th, however many days that was. Congratulations to both games. Like, we kind of saw it coming. I think we've been kind of alluding to the fact that this year's sales race is basically going to be between COD and Red Dead, and we just didn't know which one was going to win. Good on Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And Monster Hunter World still being in the top 10, though.
I'm quite surprised by Monster Hunter World. And I think it's a good sign.
It is. Monster Hunter World is... It's taking advantage of that January effect that we've noted for a couple of years now. In that, I think Dying Light was the first one that really took advantage of it. Whereas Monster Hunter World, if it was released pretty much, except in the summer where no one ever releases games, if it was released any other time of the year, it would not have sold very well. A lot of Monster Hunter World was down to there was nothing else really out at the time, and word of mouth spread because everybody was playing it and everybody was sharing stuff on it, and then more people would buy it. So Capcom just did a good job of releasing it when they did and realizing there was this gap in the market where people hadn't had a new game for a while. And if they can get positive buzz going. I mean, they're doing the same thing with Resident Evil 2. Although that game sells itself. Have you fucking seen that game? That they released some new gameplay on PlayStation Underground. Holy shit, it looks amazing. Lickers are terrifying. And very naked. And really fast.
So it's a monster with the name Lick in it. And it's a naked man crawling across the ceiling.
It's an inside-out man that crawls across the ceiling. Yeah. They actually made them blind properly in this game, so, like, yeah. Anyway, I made some notes on some of the things that MPD published. Red Dead Redemption 2 sales were 3 times the original. With just 9 days of reported sales, Red Dead Redemption 2 is the second best-selling game of October 2018, and is now also the second best-selling game of the end date. Red Dead Redemption 2 launch month sales are more than tripled those of the previous title in the series, Red Dead Redemption, which launched in May 2010. R.I.P. Alan Wake. Which came out on the same day. We salute you. You tried and failed spectacularly, but you tried.
Me or Alan Wake?
Alan Wake.
Right.
3 times the number of sales of Red Dead Redemption 2 on launch.
Yeah.
I mean, it's launched around about the same time in the console life cycle, so you can't really say that there probably are more consoles out in the wild.
I think word of mouth also helps because people have had a long time to hear about Red Dead to know that it's meant to be such an acclaimed game and everything. Yeah,
that is true. I suppose it's following on from a game that many consider it was for me personally, it was the game of the year for a lot of people in 2010. It was the game of the year, and people have talked very highly about it. And it's been 8 years. It's the Persona 5 effect times 20. Where we were talking about Persona 5 being a hit, and it was like, well, everybody kind of knows someone who will say Persona 4 was amazing, and then pick Persona 5 up and then get converted, yeah. So it's like that, but way bigger because it's a Rockstar game, so fucking everybody bought it. Next note, I deleted a Call of Duty note because we're going to touch on that in a second. Super Mario Party is the 3rd fastest selling Mario Party game. Super Mario Party climbs to the charts this month to rank 5th in October sales after its September debut placed it at number 9 in the rankings over each title's first 2 months in the market. Super Mario Party is now the 3rd fastest selling Mario Party game in history, trailing only Mario Party and Mario Party 8. Interestingly, Mario Party went up. Normally, these games go down in the second month. I'm not saying it sold more of the copies in the second than it did in the first, but the sales went up. Almost like everybody else was buying one of 2 games. And congratulations to Super Mario Party. I put a thing out specifically for this podcast.
Indeed, I still haven't seen it or played it.
It's a very excellent, fun little multiplayer game. Soul Calibur 6 debuts as the 6th best-selling game of October. Soul Calibur 6 achieved the 3rd highest launch month dollar sales for the franchise in tracked history, trailing only Soul Calibur 4 and Soul Calibur 2. And lastly, the $1.55 billion in October 2018 dollar sales represents the highest total spend for a month of October since the NPD group began tracking the industry in 1995. The previous high was $1.36 billion, reached in October 2008.
That's pretty
Yowza.
high.
I mean, since 1995, it's the highest spend ever.
23 years?
Yeah. Many more people are buying video games these days.
It's almost as if it's a growth industry.
Almost. I mean, part of it will be down to the fact that with deluxe editions and early access editions of like Assassin's Creed Odyssey and stuff, like people are spending more on their games, like $80 or $100. But anyway, that's the NPD. Fascinated to see next month. We got Battlefield and Hitman, and I'm really, really interested to see what happens to Fallout 76. There's a new story I didn't put in, which was the 80% drop off between Fallout 76 and Fallout 4 physical sales, because I'm done tracking things that only track physical sales.
Yeah.
Because it's just pointless at this point.
You've ascended to a new level.
We've ascended to a new level of consciousness here at the Words About Gamescast, where we've just realised tracking physical sales alone is pretty much useless.
Yeah. One day, the NPD group will, follow us.
They do. Most of the only games that we're not tracking digital sales of, the ones I mentioned, were mostly just because the EA doesn't give them their PC sales numbers. So
Yeah.
Black Ops 4, FIFA 19, and Madden NFL 19, it was only the PC digital sales that aren't being tracked. So the Xbox and the PlayStation 4 digital sales are still being tracked in there. If they weren't, there's no way Call of Duty would have been number one. Because Red Dead Redemption 2 is tracking all sales as well. So, speaking of Black Ops 4's lack of campaign didn't hurt sales in the slightest. So I'm not actually going to read this news story, other than to say that Call of Duty Black Ops 4 launch month dollar sales represent the 8th highest in video game history since the NPD group began tracking in 1995. Black Ops 4 instantly becomes the best-selling game of the year and the second best-selling game across the past 12-month period, trailing only Call of Duty World War II. The 8th highest dollar sales in video game history since the NPD began tracking in 1995.
Can Titanfall would have been a success without a campaign?
Well, this is what I wanted to talk to you about, because a lot of people were wringing their hands about, COD's not going to do very well because it doesn't have a single-player campaign. I don't know, I'd say it's done pretty well for itself. I don't know that the single-player campaign has hurt it. I feel like this is partial vindication, because I was on the other side of that argument, right? Pushing back against everybody else who was like, Titanfall needed a campaign, and me sitting there going, no, it didn't. I mean, we got an amazing one in Titanfall 2.
I know.
And I'm happy that we got that, but Titanfall was still a fucking great game. That was worth the money. Just because it didn't have a fucking single-player campaign. Because Black Ops 4's single-player campaign probably would have been shite. Let's be honest. They haven't been good for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's not like Battlefield 5's flying off the shelves, and that does have a single-player campaign. So I guess vindication?
Yeah, it doesn't help with Battlefield 5 that the release date was changed so often and the marketing was a bit...
Yeah, Battlefield 5's marketing was terrible, and there were other issues.
Tomb Raider, but...
I think the Blackout beta probably helped as well.
Yeah.
Because that actually generated some positive buzz, because a lot of people played it and were like, hey, this is really good. Basically all they had to do was release a non-janky version of PUBG, and they kind of did that, and then added a bunch of other stuff to it. But yeah, not good for Call of Duty. Congratulations to Treyarch. I guess the decision not to make a single player campaign hasn't really done anything. Next news story: Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is the best pre-selling game of the series to date, and on Switch. This is from Ryan Craddock over at Nintendo Life, who writes, in just a couple of weeks' time, on December 7th, a little game called Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is coming out. If you've seen the absolutely monstrous amount of news and coverage surrounding the game so far, you probably won't be all that surprised to hear that it's already starting to break records left, right, and centre. Nintendo shared a new short trailer for the game, sharing a couple of incredibly impressive facts in the process. Ultimate has now become the best pre-selling game in the Super Smash Bros. Series, which, I mean, they released one of those games a generation.
Yeah.
Probably not that difficult for it to become the best pre-selling Smash Brothers game in the series, but it's also the best pre-selling game so far on the Switch, beating Super Mario Odyssey, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, Mario Party.
I keep looking at my Switch and thinking, soon.
I mean, this is hype, right? Like,
yeah.
This is one of the reasons we don't do Game of the Year until January, because games in December count, and Smash Brothers could take the whole thing.
Yeah.
You don't omit Smash... Listen, Jeff Keighley, you don't omit Smash Brothers from the Game of the Year conversation. Even though your Game Awards show is mostly just for trailers and announcements more than it is for the awards.
Yeah.
Still, don't put Fortnite up there if you're going to ignore Smash Brothers. I'm going to say that so many times on the reaction stream when I'm watching Game Awards. Every time Fortnite comes up. Justice for Smash Brothers. Sticking with Nintendo, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee break first week Switch sales record with 3 million copies sold. This is from Emma Kent over at Eurogamer, who writes, "We already had an idea Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were performing well from the recent British sales charts where the games, when combined, topped sales of all other titles last week. And this success appears to have been mirrored globally as a whopping 3 million units have been shifted in the first week since their release. The news was shared via the Pokemon Company on Twitter and translated by Jamatsu. It means the games have broken the record for the Switch's biggest launch to date so far. So that's going to last a couple of more weeks, and then obviously Smash Brothers is going to come out. But considering this isn't the mainline Pokemon game, I'm surprised that this has done this.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought it was going to be like the main. I'm still kind of confused about if it's like a proper Pokemon game or you have to play Pokemon Go.
No, you don't have to. It's kind of like a bridge between Pokemon Go and Pokemon proper. There's a lot of the Pokemon Go mechanics in there, so when you're catching a Pokemon, you're using the motion controls with the Joy-Cons and whatnot. It's little touches like that. And it's not really the full-on RPG experience. It's probably a combination of the fact that the game's called Pokemon, and the fact that it's one of those things where the Switch is only a year and a half old. And more people keep buying it. So more and more people keep buying games when they come out, maybe, which probably explains why its launch was bigger than Legend of Zelda, or was bigger than Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
And I'd love that for this to hold the record for more than a couple of weeks, but Smash Brothers, yeah, Smash Brothers is going to obliterate that record. I would imagine. Maybe it won't. But good for them. Good for Pikachu and Eevee. Can't wait for the full-on Pokemon experience next year. We shall move on. Keith, Spyro fans have been angered at Activision's response to missing subtitles. This is from Nick Santangelo from IGN. He writes, "When Activision released the Spyro Reignited trilogy last week, some players were upset to discover that there are no subtitles available for cutscenes. Activision has since issued a statement regarding the missing subtitles, but it doesn't seem to be placating fans, and I can see why. Quote, when Toys for Bob set out to make an awesome game collection, there were certain decisions that needed to be made throughout the process. The team remained committed to keeping the integrity and legacy of Spyro that fans remembered intact. The game was built from the ground up using a new engine for the team, and was localized in languages that had not previously been attempted by the studio. While there's no industry standard for subtitles, the studio and Activision care about the fans' experience, especially with respect to accessibility for people with different abilities, and will evaluate going forward." End quote. The response comes after players began complaining about the missing feature on Reddit and elsewhere, with one fan even starting an online petition. Reddit user Sklarlight wrote that Activision support was helpless when reached about the missing subtitles. Sklarlight, who says they are that says they are hard of hearing, pointed out that the original Spyro releases lacked cutscene subtitles, but called their exclusion a shame by today's standards of accessibility. I'm going to stop right there.
Yeah.
This is in the era of like Xbox's controller, the adaptive controller, and like the stuff we saw with Spider-Man, where there was so many accessibility options, like to let people play the game, and then Activision comes out and they can't even put subtitles in cutscenes, which is just a standard feature in 2018. Like, I've never come across a game in so long, and I always turn the subtitles on because I'm always either capturing footage for reviews or streaming, where I have to put the subtitles on.
Yeah. I don't want to say that they didn't have any love for this game and just saw that they were going to, just reproduce like old games to get a game out. But it doesn't look like they really thought this is a proper game, as a game in itself. It's just sort of like getting something off the shelf, putting it in a box, dusting it off. I got that kind of in the wrong order, but you know what I mean.
But it's fine. I got what you mean. It's like Smash Brothers came out. It's like Crash Bandicoot came out last. Crash in Smash would be amazing. It's like Crash Bandicoot came out last year and printed money because of nostalgia, right? So they were like, shit, what else have we got? Oh, we got Spyro. Cool, let's just bash something together and make it look pretty, send it out there. Did it have subtitles in it? No. Did someone at Activision think maybe we should put subtitles in it? Yeah, they probably did. And I imagine that meeting was just like, no, we're not going to do that. We've got to get this game out in 12 months, or 8 months, or 6 months, or whatever. But gaming is becoming more and more accessible, which is awesome. I love it. It's fantastic. But moves like this are just dick moves. And then to come out and just say, oh, yeah, we care about accessibility for people with like who are, like, in this case, hard of hearing. And it's just like, you don't, though, because otherwise, if you did care about that, you would have put subtitles in Spyro. It's just, that's that simple. Like, a lot of dumb decisions aren't quite as clear-cut, but this kind of is. Like, subtitles are the least you can do for accessibility. Rant over. That was more of that story, but just... it's all not unimportant. It is just people pointing out that this is stupid.
Yeah.
Keith, The Walking Dead's final season is back in development. You seem quite popular tonight. This is from Michael McWhirter over at Polygon. It's fine. After being cancelled in the wake of Telltale Games' closure, then revived by Skybound Entertainment, the final season of the Walking Dead episodic video game series is back in development. According to an update from Skybound, quote, many, end quote, of the team members who worked on the game at Telltale are returning to resume development. Yes. Only 2 episodes of The Walking Dead, the final season's 4-episode arc, were released. Work on the remaining 2 episodes resumes today. So that was sometime last week. Skybound says, and the final season will go back on sale ASAP. Many Telltale games, including The Walking Dead, were recently delisted for sale on Steam. Skybound says they've been doing a ton of work logistically and legally to get us to a place where we're able to roll up our sleeves and get to the actual work on The Walking Dead, the final season, and it plans to have details on the remaining episodes soon. Soon we'll be announcing release dates for the 2 remaining episodes, Skybound social media manager Johnny O'Dell wrote. It's likely that previous seasons of the game may be unavailable for purchase for a few days as we transition, but don't panic. We'll have everything back online ASAP. If you already purchased Season 4, you will not have to pay again. Future episodes will be available to download as soon as they are released via your original point of purchase. I'd love to be able to download Episode 2, because I can't. I've never been able to download Episode 2. It's never worked for me. But that very personal aside. This is best possible scenario for what went down.
Yeah, I mean, it helps not only the people who bought the game, but also the people who made the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
As in the devs themselves.
The devs is what I'm 100% talking about. Like, there are many of the original development team. I imagine, I like to hope, I'd imagine anyway, as many of the original team as they could get. So obviously some people will have moved on to other jobs, or hopefully like gotten other jobs with other developers and wouldn't have been available for this. So this is good news for them because they have a job again, and they'll be working on this until it's done, and then that gives them time to actually properly find another job without having to panic about not having health insurance or whatever.
Yeah.
And putting food on the table. So, best case scenario, yeah, best we can do. Got a couple of quick ones here. Keep in mind that the Game Awards are in a couple of weeks as I read these. 20th Century Fox trademarks Alien Blackout for use with video games. I'm just going to ignore that typo. Sal Romano from Jamatsu. This comes from Sal Romano from Jamatsu, who writes, 20th Century Fox has trademarked Alien Blackout for use with computer game disc software, namely game software, and the like. The teaser image for the Game Awards 2018, which will air on December 6th, teases Worlds with Change, repeated over and over with a 70s-themed font and a giant W in the upper left corner, similar the Wayland Yutani Corporation. Okay, that second typo wasn't my fault. I didn't type this. Similar to the Wayland Yutani Corporation of the Alien franchise. Game designer Hideo Kojima, a friend of awards show host Jeff Keighley, has seemingly also helped tease the announcement. Please let this be related to Alien Isolation. Please. Please. Let this be a sequel to Alien Isolation. Let it be real. Let me see it in 2 weeks. Pretty please. Pretty please. Keith doesn't care. And the second one, Square Enix trademarks Parasite Eve in Europe. That's all I got. That's all I got.
Yeah.
And a link
That's
to a trademark.
Be all and end all of that story.
That is the be all and end all of that story. Yes, please, God, bring me another Parasite Eve game. Please, whoever is up there listening, give me these two games.
SpongeBob.
SpongeBob, if you're up there, please. Alien Blackout as a sequel to Alien Isolation, and Parasite Eve 4. Parasite Eve 2 is on my list of games I want to replay. Because I fucking love that game, it's so good. I never played the third one because it was PSP exclusive. I never had a PSP. Two things to keep in mind that these trademarks have been made. Because we've got the Game Awards, we've got the Kind of Funny Games Showcase, and just we've got publishers and developers pretty much just doing whatever the fuck they want these days, like Sony. Really quickly, there's a rumor going around that there's a new Mortal Kombat project in the works. That's from the Spanish language voice actor Jose Eduardo Garza Escudero.
Which does sound like a mob boss's name.
No comment. Kingdom Hearts 3 wraps up development. New Together trailer shared. This is from Zach Reese over at RPG Site, who writes, Square Enix and Tetsuya Nomura have announced today that they have finally wrapped up development of Kingdom Hearts 3, meaning it's gone gold. It's been over 5 years since Kingdom Hearts 3 was originally announced during E3 2013 on the Sony press conference stage, so this has been a long time coming for fans of the series. To celebrate, they shared an extended version of the Together trailer for the game that has been playing in North American cinemas. The video showcases characters from Toy Story, Monsters Inc., Frozen, Tangled, Pirates of the Caribbean, Hercules, Big Hero 6, and more. Believe it when I see it. When that game is literally in my hand, and I'm putting it into the PlayStation and or Xbox, and it's downloading, and then I boot it up, and it's actually Kingdom Hearts 3, and I'm not just being trolled.
Yeah, I was going to say, you buy the box, and you open it, and this gold dust falls out.
I put the disc in, and it just installs Final Fantasy 15. Then I'll believe it's finished. Not a moment before. Does that seem fair? Given Square Enix's history with JRPGs. I didn't watch the trailer. Fucking Kingdom Hearts trailers are so fucking strange. Like, it's all music.
Kingdom Hearts is
Kingdom Hearts is very strange. I mean by that, it's like you've got the voice acting, and you've got the music, and you've got the complete lack of sound effects that make it kind of eerie.
Yeah.
To watch a trailer for Kingdom Hearts. Anyway, you can tell we're near the end now because the next news story is the world record for the highest Xbox Gamerscore is now 2 million. This comes from Riley McLeod over at Kotaku, who writes, Ware Cox, known in the gaming world as Stallion83, previously held the world record for being the first person to get 1 million points in Xbox achievements. Yesterday, so last week, he beat his own record by bringing his Gamerscore to 2 million. Cox retrieved the achievement on Twitch, which he completed by playing Halo 2 from the Master Chief Collection. He told Guinness World Records, quote, Halo is my favourite franchise, so when I fired it up while searching for a game, it hit me that it should be the game I use. End quote. Cox got his first Xbox achievement on the 25th of November 2005. He told Guinness, according to his Twitter, that achievement was for unlocking Clusterbuster in Hexic HD. Great game. In 2014, he became the first person to achieve 1 million points, earning himself a lifetime Xbox Gold membership in the process. Cox told Guinness that he's not sure if he'll go for 3 million points, but said, quote, "I'll always love video games and achievements, and I'll always be playing and going for them." I mean, I've got like 60k. I just think that was a lot.
Yeah, my brother has a tendency to like 100% games.
I was looking at Hitman 2's achievements because it's a game. Spoiler alert for my impressions video, which is out on Tuesday. I deeply, deeply love this game. And I really enjoy like replaying the levels to find all of the different ways you can assassinate people. Like, I hit a dude with a fish off the edge of a pier.
Okay.
And there's a whole thing with the pink flamingo costume that it has to be
I've seen that on Xbox.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. The Miami level's so good, but like I looked at it and then I was like, oh, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. Like, I've 100%ed exactly like one game in the last like 3 or 4 years on purpose. Like things like Walking Dead, it's like you do that by accident. You do that by playing it and finishing it. Spider-Man. So yeah, 1 million, 2 million. Should we go for the record? Should we just create a joint Xbox account?
No.
And go for it. 3 million achievements. You, Russ, Tom, Patrick, your brother can join in because he's really good at doing this. And we'll just do it. 3 million in Xbox Gamerscore.
If we do this, I take the Lego games.
I'm sensing a plan coming together here.
I mean, that's going to be like 100,000 already just on Xbox Lego games.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, there's tons of games out there that which are apparently super easy to 100%. We might be finished sometime before the Final Fantasy VII remake comes out. So about the same timeline. Congratulations to this dude, though. 2 million achievements. I mean, in achievement points. I mean, damn. Everybody's got to have a hobby, right? Congratulations. That sounded really sarcastic. I'm being genuinely congratulatory. Like, way to go.
Yeah.
Like, good one. I wish I could do something like that. But let's move on to something not quite so nice. Fallout 76 bug grants player permanent God mode. And now they're begging for death. This comes from Wesley in Pool over at Eurogamer, who writes, "Normally, video game God mode is a lot of fun. Impervious to harm, you run around the game world swatting away enemies who'd normally give you trouble as if they were flies. But what happens when you're locked into God mode permanently against your will? For one Fallout 76 player..."
Spoilers, I want to shout at this point.
That's exactly what happened, and now they're begging for death. Redditor Brogadin took to the Fallout 76 sub to complain about a bug that had made their character unkillable after hitting around level 40. "She can even eat a nuke blast to the face and be fine," Brogadin wrote. "There is literally zero chance that she can die, even if I wanted her to, which I very much do at this point." End quote. Fallout 76 includes an instant kill barrier at the fissure south of White Spring. Normally, anyone who enters it dies immediately. Not Brogadin, though. There's an image showing their character standing nonplussed in the fissure. "Even drowning doesn't work," Brogadin said. It looks like Fallout 76, which is already riddled with bugs and other technical issues, considers Brogadin's character to have 0 health points, or negative health points. The character occasionally gets some health back, but dropping it doesn't result in death. Quote, "I'm not sure what state the game is actually reading me in," end quote. Exasperated, Brogadin submitted a ticket to Bethesda customer support. Only a stock reply was received, suggesting they check out the status effects currently active on their character. Oh, Bethesda. I think we're way beyond status effects at this point.
You are the Grim Reaper.
Thankfully, it looks like Bethesda has noticed the kerfuffle on the Fallout 76 subreddit over this and messaged Brogadin to ask for more information. With any luck, this bug will be quashed soon and Brogadin's character will finally get the peace they so crave. I mean, I was talking last week.
Embrace of death, says Brogadin.
I was talking last week about like some of the more unique bugs I've ever encountered. in a game, it being in Fallout 76, the black and white bug specifically. But I mean, this is a new one on me. We made your character invincible to the point where insta kill, like no-go areas won't kill your character.
Yeah.
Like the one thing that's definitely supposed to kill you.
Yeah.
God, kill
You're
you.
immune to the Guardians.
Yeah, you're immune to the Guardians. If you jumped off the level like in Halo, you would just keep falling, I guess. Wowzers. I feel like we're going to be doing a freaking final... There's going to be a Fallout 76 bug story every week for the rest of the...
That's this year's thing.
That's this year's thing. It's just Fallout 76 bugs. We had the naked monstrosity thing last week. And now we've got a character who is invincible. I mean, I know I said the game was unbalanced, but geez, come on, Bethesda. Anyway, do we move to the last news story? Normally when I send Keith the show notes, I don't get a reply back on anything specific.
Yeah.
Any one specific story, but I actually did get a reply back for this one, which I believe in the context of our chat was, really? To which my answer is, yes, really. Google files patent for motorized virtual reality shoes that moonwalk users to safety. This is written by Jacob Ridley over at PC Games End, who writes, Google has applied for a patent in the US to attach wheels to VR shoes. Even that first sentence is just like, this is not going to end well. The concept is...
Motorized wheels.
In VR, where you can't see. The concept is a motorized shoe that would keep a user within safe boundaries during virtual reality play, while, in theory, allowing you to walk freely within virtual worlds without ever worrying about walking into a wall or smashing your TV to pieces. In theory.
Yeah.
Patent application...
Let's just pause there for a second and imagine someone on roller skates being blindfolded.
Do you see...
We've all seen it in sitcoms. Has it ever gone well?
I mean, I don't see any initial problems with this right off the bat. But anyway, as someone who crawled into our door at our last charity stream while in virtual reality, I mean, this wouldn't have helped me in the slightest because I was on my hands and knees. The patent application outlines a motorized device that will activate, quote, when a distance between the motorized footwear and a boundary of an operational zone defined in the physical environment is less than or equal to a threshold distance, end quote. Essentially, if you walk back out of bounds, the shoes reel you back in. The virtual... They're so close to getting why this is a terrible idea. The virtual reality community has long been wrestling with how to get gamers' feet involved in the immersive experience. The traditional solution is to harness up and suspend a gamer off and over a reactive treadmill. What do you mean, off and over? Wait, hang on. The traditional solution is to harness up and suspend a gamer off and over a reactive treadmill. I would have assumed that would have been 100% of the time over a reactive treadmill. Otherwise, you've just harnessed up and suspended someone from the ceiling with a freaking blindfold on their face, and they can't do anything.
I was just thinking, it's like you walk in someone's house, like, I see you've got hooks from the ceiling. Are you in the VR? No. Why do you ask?
Yes.
Oh. You're either a serial killer or into suspension test.
How would suspending someone from the ceiling without a reactive treadmill help?
They wouldn't be able to go anywhere, but they'll still be in there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you were playing a zero-G game that didn't require any movement whatsoever, that could be kind of cool. You know, until you barf all over the room. But...
Depends how you're suspended. Because you have to do it right, otherwise, you'll die.
You'll just get it. It's like, help! Just like tangled up in harness.
My legs, if I drop to the floor, it'll come up and kill me from blood poisoning.
Cause of death, autoerotic asphyxiation.
Yeah, that's another one.
Anyway, sorry.
Now I know how those dolphins feel.
However, those are bulky, expensive, and almost everyone's in accordance that there's got to be a better way. Google's response is a motorized roller skate to scoot you around virtual worlds without you unknowingly breaking everything or yourself in real life. Essentially, a tracking sensor fitted somewhere in the environment or on the device itself will measure where the user is located within a predefined zone. Once a user walks past the threshold or outer limits of the defined space, the shoe's motor kicks in, moonwalking the user back to relative safety of the play area.
Relative.
Let's just break this down for a second.
Relative safety.
This is a fantastic idea in theory, right? If I'm playing VR in this room and I am walking straight at that door and almost knocking over my copy of Spider-Man, if I'm walking straight at that door, something to move me away from the door, like in the holodeck in Star Trek, something to move me away from the door, sounds fantastic in theory. Now, I'm going to put you in a hypothetical situation. I'd like you to answer some questions. So you're playing VR, right? Any game, just imagine a game in VR where you're walking around. And you've decided, I'm going to put these shoes on because I've just got these shoes and I want to properly immerse myself in the experience. Because it will probably really help you not get motion sick. Now, if you were walking around in a forest, let's say, with this VR headset on, so you've got no idea where the boundary of this play area is, and all of a sudden, with no warning whatsoever, you were suddenly roller skating backwards across the room. Do you think you would be able to keep your balance in that scenario?
No, I don't believe I'll be able to keep my balance. Even if I did, I think that would give me motion sickness. I think I'm moving forward. My body is telling me I'm also moving backward.
You think you're moving forward, but actually you're moving backwards at like 3 times the speed you thought you were moving.
My eyes are telling me that I'm moving forward. My inner ear is telling me I'm moving backwards.
So
I'm
not only
on my feet because of the wheels, which are trying to move me backwards. Also, yours would be permanently on because look at the size of your room. You take one step forward, it literally takes 2 steps back.
And I go through my display cabinet. Except it would then react again and send me shooting forwards.
Why are you dragging me through broken glass, Alexa?
In theory it's a great idea, but Jesus motherfucking Christ. It's just one of those purely, common sense things where it's just you can't yank someone backwards on motorized roller skates when they can't see and they have no idea what's about to happen. You'll kill them. In this hypothetical scenario where Keith is doing this, within 20 seconds of playing the game, he's already sprawled out across this desk with a broken back, vomited everywhere. Because, Jesus.
Damn you, Spooky's House of Jump Scares. You win again.
You have made a powerful enemy today.
Yes. Next time I play a VR game, it's going to be Fruit Ninja.
Yes, it is. More than likely going to be Fruit Ninja. Nope, that's still recording. Cool, I thought I hit the button. It's a cool headline, though, until you really think about it. Or just think about it for 3 seconds. Crazy. Let's skip to the last news thing. We're not skipping, that was actually the last news thing. Let's skip to the last section of the podcast. Games out this week.
So, we have Darksiders 3 on the PC, PS4, and Xbox One out November the 27th. Also out is This War of Mine, the complete edition for the Switch.
November 28th, we've got Artifact on PC, which is the card game from Steam. Valve. The only thing I remember about that is that one card. That was unintentionally racist. Crack the whip. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. R-Type Dimensions EX on PC and Switch on November 28th, and Horizon Chase Turbo on Xbox One and Switch on November 28th. What's coming out on November 29th, Keith?
November 29th, Blast from the Past with Asterix and Obelix Extra Large 2 on the PC, PS4, Xbox One and Switch. You may need to help me with the pronunciation.
I'm very happy you took this one because I'm looking forward to seeing you try to pronounce some stuff.
Niri? Tower of Shirin?
No idea.
PC and Switch.
Close enough.
And then there's Abzu, which you're doing that on the Switch.
And on November 30th, we've got Ride 3 on PC, PS4, and Xbox One, and Ark Survival Evolved on Nintendo Switch. Lots of games coming out on other platforms that have already been out on previous platforms. Probably the highlight there would be Darksiders 3. I'm really looking forward to it. Like Darksiders 2, never played the first one. Looking forward to getting into that. Haven't heard of most of those other games. Neri Tower of Shirin looks quite interesting. And Abzu's quite cool if you can actually stand playing a game which is set entirely underwater.
Yes.
Which I cannot. That's going to do it for episode 100 and whatever the fuck I said this was of the Words About Gamescast. Thank you very much for joining me, Keith. It's been a pleasure as always. Go buy Spider-Man and play it.
What I'm going to do right now is go make myself hot blackcurrant.
Not right now, like everything's shut.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself. And then
Take care.
go buy Spider-Man. It's on sale on Black Friday sale. You should buy it. It's good. Say bye.
Bye.